Hey everyone, I hope you're having a fantastic summer. It's August, we're right in the middle of summer, and of course it's that time of the month to go over the stats and see what happened in July. I'm sure you're all anxiously awaiting. Before we kick that off though, I just wanted to bring your attention. You notice on my website here, we'll sell your home for top dollar or we'll buy it. We just implemented this program. There's some companies that have been offering this for a while. We just felt there's been a lot of homeowners that have been a little nervous about trying to time things. In other words, what happens if I list my house and, I don't find another one? Or what about if I want to go and find a home first? Before I list my house, I want to know that my house is actually going to be sold. And, I'm just really confident in what we do at being able to get people's homes sold. So we're able to offer the guarantee. I mean, if it ever came down to worst case scenario, yes, we will buy your home from you. And so you can confidently go ahead and make an offer on another home. So I want to make you aware of that program. And if you want to get more details on how it all works, all you have to do is reach out to me, and I, of course, will get that for you. So don't hesitate to do that. So let's dive into some stats here. And I think we're going to start with this chart today, which I think you'll find interesting. We hit a new record for prices in Calgary. Now, these are obviously, we've priced it according to quadrants because we've got the quadrants divided into 8 quadrants, not 4, like a lot of people don't realize. And this does include condominium. So you'll see, look at the price increases, in the north at 540,300, the northwest is at 609,800, up 7%. The west is at 688,800. City Center at 595,300. That one hasn't seen as much of a gain. Northeast has really been remarkable at the growth that we've seen. 474 now in the Northeast as a median price. 389 in the East. But look at that, it's up 17.8%. That's amazing. Down South, 553,400. That's up 6.3. In the Southeast at 555,300 at 5.6. So you can see what you can expect to pay. Again, this includes condominium. So that just gives you an idea, though, of the different pricing around the city. Now let's look at a little deeper dive into some of the stats. And it's been remarkable as to what has gone on, and it doesn't seem to have an end in sight. So look at here, the total sales of 2,647. And that is up 17.7% from July of 22. And I can tell you for Calgary, that's actually a pretty big number. Like a typical year in Calgary for sales in July would be, right around 2,200. So last year was pretty normal. So to see 17% increase in sales really is remarkable. And it's kind of the same story as last month because we're doing it with lower levels of inventory. So if you look at last year in July, we had 5,346 properties on the market. This year, 3,488. So we're down 34% in inventory. We're up 17.7% in sales. So you don't have to be a mathematician to understand that if you're down that much in inventory and that much in demand, that we're going to see price increases. We just, again, don't have enough inventory to meet the demand. We did see a slight increase of new listings for July over a year ago, 2.17%. But with that much of sales happening, it just isn't enough new inventory to meet that demand, which is why we only have 1.32 months of supply on the market. So that's why you're seeing these price increases, and you can see, our benchmark price is up 5.6%. Our median price is up 12, and our average price is up 9.7. So the benchmark price just takes into account, the average size and home in Calgary, but that is pretty significant to see the median price when it factors in, how many properties sold below the average price versus how many sold above the average price. It's a mathematical formula they take into account. But But regardless of which you're looking at, we're just continuing to see price increases. And this chart, again, shows you just where we're at right here. And you can see the blue is the months of supply of inventory. So, we're still at, historical lows all the way back from 2008. And that's why when you see the price changing here, it's on the rise, and it doesn't seem to have an end in sight. So it is good for if you're trying to sell your property right now. You're probably still going to get a price that would maybe exceed your expectations. Now, in the reverse, if you're trying to buy, there's no question there's some stiff competition out there, and you really have to have a strategy on getting your offer accepted. And I can tell you there's a lot of strategies that we use, escalating offers. We try to look at minimizing the amount of conditions. We try to have all the financing in place, so you try to, you work with all these different ways of trying to get your offer to be most attractive to a seller. And then from a seller's perspective, you have the luxury of being quite fussy at being able to pick and choose which offer is best for you when you have this kind of a ratio of sales to listings. All right, let's move into these charts right here. And this gives you an idea. We're looking now specifically at detached houses. And we've dropped a little bit on our absorption rate from the month of June, which is not uncommon because typically June is the peak of the market for the highest demand of the month of the year. So this is not uncommon, but that's still a really strong seller's market to be at 70% absorption rate. And you can see our benchmark price has risen to an all-time high in Calgary at $690,500. And it's falling in line. I hate to be the one to say I told you so, but it was, way back in the summer last year, I said I wouldn't be surprised if Calgary hit $725,000 for a benchmark price of a house. And some people looked at me with raised eyebrows when I said that. And now we're really not even that far from it because we're up year over year 7.55%. But again, if you continue to have low inventory and high demand, prices are just going to keep going up. And I don't know where this will end. It's happening in the midst of high interest rates, and that probably surprises some people. People keep asking me, well, how do these people have the money to afford these prices and pay these high interest rates? I don't know. People just seem to have the money. But we do have a lot of people who are dual income now, and both partners make good money, and they seem to be able to manage this. So that's what's happening. Anyway, you can take a look at this chart. You can see all the way back to 2014, we were at 512. And you can see that this is why real estate's always a good investment, because even though we had a couple of bad years in 2018, 2019, real estate always comes back. And so people, when they ask me, well, are we going to see a market correction? Well, there's always a chance for a correction. Who knows for sure? But even if we did see one and you're buying a house and keeping it 5 years plus, you're probably going to be just fine. That's real estate has a history of that, so it's always a good investment. So here is our active listings for detached. We had 1,720. We sold 1,197 of them. And some people say to me, well, how come they all didn't sell if the market is so strong? The truth is there's always people that push the envelope too much. Even in a real strong seller's market, there is only so much people will be willing to pay for your house. And, I've sold almost every single house that I've listed this year, but there was one I wasn't able to sell. And again, we just pushed the envelope on the price, and we tried a little too high and it didn't work. So even in this market, you still have to be priced, in line with what buyers are willing to pay. Remember, the greatest fear of a buyer is paying too much, and the greatest fear of a seller is selling too low. So that's why there's a really strong, happy medium in the middle. Anyway, let's, you can see average days on market is 22 days. So keeping in mind, most offers have conditions of about 10 days. So really, houses are selling in about 12 days. So if your house is not sold in 2 weeks in this kind of a market environment, you really need to take a look at what's happening. Is your price out of line? Do we have poor marketing? Are we just not reaching the right buyers? But more than likely, it's probably a price concern. Here's market distribution. It's always my favorite chart, and quite amazing to see this. Wow, 600 to 700,000 is almost taking control of the price point with the most sales. And I think we might just see that happen next month. This might is going to overtake the $500,000 to $600,000. So it's happening, but you can see in Calgary, we've got, 45% of the entire market between $500,000 and $700,000. That is the sweet spot. That is where most of the buyers that can afford to buy are buying. So that's going to be the sweet spot of the market for a while. But not too far off is 700,000 to 800,000. It's 15%, and that is higher than the 400 to 500, because the 400 to 500 is starting to be a thing of the past. This is the reality of where we're going in this market. And what's also amazing to me is that the 1 million to 1.5 million is almost 7% of the market. So the luxury market is very, very strong. I'm amazed at how many people are buying these luxury homes in the midst of these high interest rates. But I will tell you something. We do a lot of luxury properties in our brokerage. And I, being that I'm the broker of the office, I actually see every file. And I've been amazed at how many luxury homes over $1 million the buyer did not require mortgage financing. So that is very interesting, and it just goes to show that there is a lot of money in this province, and there's a lot of people that are coming here still from BC, Ontario, and 1 million to 1.5 million coming from Ontario is not a big deal, because a lot of these people are selling for 2 million, 2.5, 3 million, and they're coming here and going, $1 million, 1.5 million, this is, to me, this is great value. This is, you get a really nice house for that price. So I guess from that standpoint, it's probably not a surprise that we're seeing that happening. So anyway, the bottom line is we just have a very, very strong, healthy market. All right, so let's look at semi-detached. 82.1% absorption rate, stronger than detached. Isn't that interesting to see that strong of a market? And the benchmark price moved up year over year, 7.42% at 616,800. Another new record for semi-detached. When you consider, go back to October of 22, we're at 555 that month. Each month it changes a little bit, but very interesting. Last fall, a lot of people thought the prices were going to go down because interest rates were going up. Look at where we've come from, though. I mean, in 2020, during COVID, we're at 389,000. And then year to date, keep in mind that 616, that was just for the month of June. Year to date, we're at 590. That's a tremendous growth in price for semi-detached. A minute where it comes from, but let me just show you what we saw here last month. 211 out of 257 sold. So slightly down from June, slightly down from April, but that's still a very strong month for July. 20 days on the market, which is realistically, again, 10 days on the market. But you can see here by the market distribution, when I was saying to you, where's all the growth coming from? Well, suddenly now 500 to 600,000. And you can see why this is happening, because it's affordability. For a lot of people that just can't get into the detached market, if you have to go over 6, the next best thing would be to buy a semi-detached between 5 and 6. And so no wonder it's 23.92% of the market. And then that 400 to 500 is 21.4. So, it's interesting that 400 to 600, is almost, 50% of the market for semi-detached. But that's because it's affordability thing. But then if you come over here to 800 to 900, 11% of the market. So there's a lot of people that are still buying inner city semi-detached properties. And they're beautiful. I've sold lots of them. I've helped a lot of people do it. I own a property in Altadore, so I'm really familiar with semi-detached and infills in these inner city in the inner city market. And they make some really, really nice ones. And it goes to show how many people are actually buying them, because there's a strong market for it. Even here, $1 million to $1.5 million, it's 4% of the market for a semi-detached. So these properties are in high demand, and people do like living in the inner city. And of course, if you want to live in a new property in the inner city, it's more than likely going to be a semi-detached or an infill detached, one or the other. Okay, so here we are looking at row housing, and it's the same story all year long. Everything that's getting listed has sold. So these calculations of 117%, it just means that everything that's come up is basically sold. It's like really unbelievable, the demand for row housing. And we've hit a benchmark price of $407,500. That's up 13.7%, from year over year. I mean, to go back to July, it was at 358,000. Now we're at 407. And it goes back to what I just said earlier about semi-detached. It's about affordability. That's the one thing about these interest rates. We have a lot of people that want to own real estate in Calgary, but if you're having to pay 5.7% interest rate, there's just many people that really can't afford more than a townhouse or a row house. I get it, and so that demand is there. And if we go back in history here, it's quite amazing. Again, in 2020 during COVID, 278,000. Now we're at 382 year to date. So who would have ever saw that coming? I don't think anybody could have predicted that. Not even I could have predicted that. 467 and 397. 467 sold, 397. So this means as more inventory came on the market, more stuff sold. So we finished the month at 397 active listings. But with the inventory that came on the market, 467 sold. That's why we got more than 100% that has sold. So there's just like almost any townhouse that comes on the market is selling. And you can see this. It's interesting looking at. That's why I love this chart, by the way. Is you can see that more than 50% is between 300 and 500. You see how that just works? This is now the biggest part of the market is that people can still get in, $300,000 to $400,000, and that's really considered affordable. And townhouses, row houses, I think people like them because a lot of times they have a garage. You can finish the basement. There's a small yard. I mean, it's the next best thing to owning, a semi-detached or a house, because you walk up to your own front door. There's a degree of independence. You're not walking through a hallway like an apartment condo. So these make for great properties. They make good investment properties. They're easy to rent them out. They're fantastic as for people who may be going through a divorce and they're downsizing. So there's a lot of pluses to this product. And fortunately, there is a lot of them in the Calgary and surrounding areas. So there's still a lot of choice. They're just getting snapped up. So here we are with apartment condos at 69.3% absorption rate, down slightly from last month. But look at the benchmark price. We're at $305,900. We're up 12.3% year over year. It's just remarkable to see the growth. And interestingly enough, year to date, we're at 292,071. That is almost so close to what we peaked at in 2015. I think finally, maybe next month when I do this video in September, we might just see us finally exceed the record from 2015. It took us all this time, 8 years to get here, but we're finally where we were in 2015. It's kind of a shame those years where it just went down and down and down. It was a really, really tough on a lot of people who own condos. But if you are that person that maybe now is ready to sell the condo you bought back then, this is the time to do it. And maybe you could look at moving into something different, because these condos are still selling, and it still goes back to what I keep saying. It's a bit of an affordability issue. 772 out of 1,114 sold last month, which is almost as many as sold in June, and still even better than it was in May. And 27 days on the market. There's no reason that you should not be able to sell your condo within a couple weeks in this market. And look at the pricing. Isn't that interesting? You can almost have predicted this. 200 to 300,000 is almost 50% of the market. That's where people are. 300 to 400 is the next best price, and then it just drops off a cliff, because we just don't have a big condo market in Calgary once you break 400,000. But that's a good place to be. If you've got a condo in that $200,000 to $400,000 range, it would be very easy to sell it. And if you're looking to buy in that range, there's still a fair bit of inventory that you can get into. So I'll leave you with this thought. Hopefully this video has been really helpful to understand the market. But as I always mention, real estate is very local. Every community is a little bit different, and every property is a little bit different, and everything has to be analyzed carefully for pricing. And believe me when I tell you, there is a strategy for every single property for negotiations on how you handle it. And you have to handle it with skill and care. I fortunately have had a lot of experience in this over the years, working in seller markets and buyer markets. So I've learned a thing or two. And if you would like to get a deeper understanding of some of the strategies that I use, both for when you're buying and when you're selling, all you have to do is reach out to me. And by the way, I will give you a copy of my book. So if you're buying, I have a digital copy of my book. If you're buying, Find the Home of Your Dreams Without Overpaying. It's not a long book. It's only 100 pages, but I've got some great information in there. You'll love it, and I can send it to you digitally, but I've also got a paperback copy that I'm happy to give to you as well. And then here is the book for when you're selling secrets you can't afford to miss. I've got some great stuff in there. Same thing, it's 100 pages, not very long, but I've had people read this book, and we're very grateful for some of the strategies that I educated them on. So once again, I hope that's helpful, and I can't wait to talk to you again in September. Have yourself a wonderful August and enjoy the rest of summer.